A powerful CEO mocked her black gardener and challenged him to prove his worth. But she never imagined. The man she humiliated secretly owned everything she built. In a world full of struggles and second chances, every story hides a lesson worth learning. This is Afnan Art, where ordinary lives become extraordinary tales. Sit back, open your heart, and let the story begin. The morning sun was sharp and bright over the hills of Seattle. A silver Mercedes rolled into the private estate of Evelyn Carter, the youngest CEO in Washington's green tech industry. Her mansion, surrounded by glass walls and marble terraces, looked like a palace made of steel and silence. Evelyn stepped out of the car in her white suit, holding her phone close to her ear. Her tone was cold. "Sell the stocks before noon, and tell them I don't wait for slow investors." She ended the call, turned around, and her expression changed. The sight before her made her blood boil. The once perfect rose garden, her pride, was ruined. Broken petals scattered across the grass, and the fountain in the center had stopped flowing. The scent of earth replaced the fragrance of roses. Her voice rose like a storm. "Who did this?" The housekeeper trembled and pointed toward the far end of the yard. A man in a worn work shirt was kneeling near the soil, planting something with his bare hands. His skin glistened under the sunlight, his movements calm and precise. Evelyn marched forward. "Hey you, what do you think you're doing to my garden?" The man lifted his head slowly. His eyes were deep brown, calm, and steady. "Fixing it," he said. "Fixing?" Evelyn snapped. "You destroyed it. These flowers were imported from Italy. Do you even know how much they cost?" Marcus wiped the dirt from his hands and stood up straight. He was tall, much taller than she expected. His presence carried quiet strength. "Sometimes you have to tear out the rot before beauty can grow again," he replied. Evelyn frowned, not used to being challenged, especially not by a gardener. "I don't pay you to give me philosophy," she said sharply. "You have 1 week. If this garden doesn't look perfect by next Friday, you're done." A faint smile crossed Marcus's lips. 1 week is more than enough. Her assistant tried to whisper, "Ma'am, maybe we should call the design contractor instead." Evelyn raised her hand. "No, let him prove his words." For a moment, their eyes met, the powerful CEO and the quiet man with soil on his fingers. There was something unspoken in that silence, a weight she couldn't name. Evelyn turned and walked away, heels clicking against the stone path. As she disappeared into the house, Marcus looked around the ruined garden. The breeze carried the faint echo of her voice. He knelt again, pressing his hand into the soil as if feeling for a heartbeat beneath it. Then, almost to himself, he murmured, "You really don't remember me, do you, Evelyn Carter?" A small smile curved his lips, filled with something between sorrow and resolve. The wind rustled the trees above, and the old fountain shuddered back to life, spouting a thin stream of water as if answering his whisper. From the second-floor balcony, unseen, Evelyn glanced down. Her eyes lingered on Marcus, who was now moving across the yard with quiet confidence. For a strange reason, she couldn't look away. Something about the way he worked, the precision, the patience, didn't feel like a man doing this for the first time. She tried to brush it off. Just another worker, she told herself. But deep inside, an unease stirred. It was the first time in years she had met someone who didn't fear her name. That night, as the city lights flickered beyond the horizon, Marcus sat in a small apartment near Pike Street. He opened an old laptop covered in dust. The screen lit up, showing a folder named Eco Bloom Legacy. Inside were blueprints, board meeting photos, and a single picture. Evelyn's father shaking hands with a younger Marcus Reed. Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "Let's see if you've learned what real power means, Evelyn." Outside, rain began to fall over Seattle, washing the city clean while the garden of the mansion waited in silence, ready to bloom again under the hands of the man no one truly knew. The night sky over Seattle was wrapped in silver clouds. Rain tapped softly on the glass windows of Marcus's small apartment, a rhythm that matched the calm pulse of his heart. He sat at his desk, the glow of his laptop reflecting on his face. On the screen, pages of old corporate documents scrolled endlessly, contracts, patents, and meeting minutes from a company he once helped build, Green Corp International. Marcus leaned back, his eyes filled with memories he had spent years trying to bury. Once, he had stood in boardrooms wearing tailored suits, presenting groundbreaking green technology that could change how cities breathed. But greed had a price, and that price had come from a man named Richard Carter, Evelyn's father. He remembered the day the betrayal happened. The boardroom was filled with noise, the smell of coffee and ambition thick in the air. Richard's voice cut through the chaos, calm and deadly. "I'm sorry, Marcus, but the board voted against your project. We're terminating your contract effective immediately." It had been a lie. The patents were stolen, the credit stripped from him, and the dream he built was sold to another name. Since that day, Marcus Reed vanished from the business world. Until now. The rain grew heavier. Marcus closed the laptop and looked out the window toward the faint silhouette of the Eco Bloom Tower, the very company Evelyn now ran. His voice was quiet, steady, almost like a vow. "This time, I won't destroy your company, Evelyn. I'll rebuild it from its roots." The next morning, the mansion was alive with motion. Workers moved back and forth, cleaning, planting, and arranging. But there was something different about Marcus's method. He didn't bark orders. He guided. He worked beside them. His hands were always dirty, his voice calm and sure. "Move that oak tree 3 feet to the left. It will grow straighter under the morning light," he said. "Sir, how do you know that?" asked one of the workers. Marcus smiled faintly. "Because I studied it." From the terrace above, Evelyn watched him with narrowed eyes. There was grace in the way he moved, a confidence that didn't fit his role. Every decision he made seemed deliberate, as if he could already see what the garden would look like weeks ahead. Later that afternoon, Evelyn called her assistant, Clara, into her office. "Do a background check on that gardener," she said. "Marcus Reed." "Yes, I want everything. Where he's from, who he worked for, even what school he went to." Clara hesitated. "Understood, ma'am." When Clara left, Evelyn leaned against her desk, staring out the tall windows. Her reflection in the glass looked perfect, strong, composed, untouchable, but her thoughts were restless. Why did this man's face feel familiar? Why did his calm tone make her chest tighten? Meanwhile, at the garden, Marcus was sketching something in the soil with a small stick. It wasn't random. It was a layout, a design blueprint of a botanical system used only by high-level ecological engineers. A small child from the housekeeping staff wandered close, watching curiously. "Mister, that looks like a map," the boy said. Marcus smiled. "It is. A map that shows how life connects." When Evelyn came out later that evening, the garden looked different. Small lamps lined the paths, glowing softly against the new soil. She stopped near the fountain, surprised. "You did all this in one day?" Marcus didn't look up. One day is enough to make a start. The rest depends on how deep the roots go. Evelyn folded her arms. "You talk like some kind of professor." Marcus's smile was unreadable. "Maybe I was. Or maybe I just know what happens when people forget where life begins." She stared at him for a long moment. For the first time, Evelyn didn't know what to say. She turned and walked back toward the mansion, her heels echoing through the quiet evening. When she reached the door, she looked back. Marcus was still working beneath the soft garden lights, surrounded by the sound of crickets and the scent of fresh soil. Something about that sight lingered in her heart, something she didn't want to admit. Upstairs, Clara sent her the first page of Marcus's report. Evelyn glanced at it. Her eyes widened. The screen read, "Marcus Reed, former research director, Green Corp International, Harvard graduate." Her hand froze above the phone. "No, that can't be right," she whispered. Down below, unaware of her discovery, Marcus looked up toward the glowing windows of the mansion. A faint light flickered behind the curtains, and he smiled to himself. "The past never stays buried," he murmured. "It just waits for the right season to grow again." The next morning, the city of Seattle glimmered under a pale sun. Inside the glass tower of Eco Bloom Inc., Evelyn Carter's name echoed through the hallways like authority itself. Her employees stood straighter whenever she walked past. Her stilettos clicked sharply across the polished floor, each step a reminder that she was the youngest and most feared CEO in the city's green technology industry. Meetings began at dawn and ended at dusk. Evelyn's words were law. She didn't smile, she didn't joke, and she never repeated herself. "Efficiency is respect," she often said, and everyone obeyed. But that morning, something was off. Evelyn's mind wasn't fully in the meeting. She kept seeing the face of the gardener, the calmness in his eyes, the way he had spoken without fear. It unsettled her. She had met hundreds of businessmen, investors, and professors, yet none of them looked at her the way Marcus Reed did. She shook her thoughts away and focused on the meeting. "Our solar expansion project in Portland must start next week," she said firmly. "If the contractors delay again, fire them." Her manager hesitated. "But, ma'am, the environmental clearance." "Then clear it," she interrupted coldly. "I didn't build this company by waiting for permission." The boardroom fell silent. Evelyn's tone carried the finality of a judge. But as she spoke, her assistant Clara entered the room quietly, holding a tablet. Her face looked uneasy. When the meeting ended, Evelyn gestured for her to stay. "What is it, Clara?" Clara hesitated. "About the gardener, Marcus Reed. I found more." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "More?" Clara nodded slowly. "He wasn't just a research director. 5 years ago, he co-founded a company that developed the same green soil formula we use for our eco-bloom gardens." Evelyn frowned. "That's impossible. That formula came from my father's research." Clara swallowed hard. According to the records, it was Marcus Reed who invented it. Evelyn froze. For a few seconds, she couldn't move. Then she laughed, short and sharp. "A gardener? A Harvard researcher? That's ridiculous." Clara lowered her eyes. "I thought so too. But everything matches, ma'am. The education, the signature, even the patent ID." Evelyn's hand trembled slightly as she placed the tablet on her desk. Her father's name was written right beside Marcus's on the old Green Corp patent file. It was dated 7 years ago. She turned to the window, trying to hide the storm inside her. Outside, the city looked calm, shining, perfect, like her reputation. But something deep within her began to crack. That evening, she drove home in silence. The mansion greeted her with its familiar loneliness. The only sound came from the garden, where soft lights glowed beneath the rain-soaked leaves. Marcus was there, trimming branches in the fading light. His shirt clung to his shoulders, rain dripping from his hair, yet his focus never wavered. Evelyn stood at the edge of the patio, watching. "Why are you still here?" she asked finally. Marcus looked up, surprised but calm. "The roots don't care if it rains. They keep growing." Evelyn crossed her arms. "You talk like a poet, not a gardener." He smiled slightly. "Maybe I learned from life itself." For a moment, their eyes met. The rain fell harder, filling the silence between them. Evelyn wanted to ask him about the past, about Green Corp, about her father, but pride sealed her lips. She turned away, her voice cold again. "Just finish your work before Friday." Marcus nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." As she walked back inside, her phone buzzed. A message from her lawyer flashed on the screen. Carter estate file. "There's something you should see about your father's will." Her pulse quickened. She didn't know why, but something about that message, and the man in her garden, felt connected. Outside, Marcus looked up toward the balcony where she stood. The light from her window reflected in his eyes, and his voice was low, almost a whisper. "You're still your father's daughter, Evelyn. But soon, you'll have to decide what kind of legacy you really want to carry." The wind swept through the garden, scattering petals across the wet ground. In that moment, Evelyn didn't realize her story had only just begun. The rain that had fallen the night before left the morning air soft and clean. Sunlight streamed through the clouds, glinting off wet leaves and petals that shimmered like glass. The mansion's garden, once lifeless and muddy, now breathed again. New buds pushed through the soil. Vines curled gently along the marble edges. The air smelled of fresh earth and quiet rebirth. Evelyn stood by her window, still in her robe, staring at what she saw below. She didn't understand how Marcus had done it. In just 3 days, the place looked transformed, as if he had whispered life back into it. Down below, Marcus was kneeling beside the fountain, his sleeves rolled up. His movements were steady, patient, and precise. Around him, a few workers followed his lead, their energy lighter than before. For the first time in weeks, laughter floated through the estate. Evelyn couldn't remember the last time she had heard that sound here. She wrapped her robe tighter and turned away, annoyed by her own curiosity. Yet she couldn't stop glancing back. The way Marcus worked didn't feel ordinary. Every step, every decision carried a purpose she couldn't define. It was as if he could see the end before it even began. Later that afternoon, Evelyn decided to go outside. She told herself it was just to inspect his progress, but deep down, she wanted answers. When she reached the garden, Marcus didn't look up. His hands moved smoothly as he adjusted a cluster of rare blue orchids. "Watch your step," he said calmly. "The soil is soft." Evelyn frowned. "You're giving me orders now?" "Advice," Marcus replied without looking at her. "You can tell the difference." She hated how composed he was. Most people stammered when she spoke. He, on the other hand, spoke as though they were equals. "You've done a lot," she admitted reluctantly, glancing at the rows of plants. "But these species, you can't just mix them like this. They'll compete for nutrients." Marcus smiled faintly. "Not if you understand how balance works. Nature doesn't fight itself. People do." Evelyn's lips parted, but she couldn't find a retort. She watched him stand and move toward the fountain. The water flowed gently now, catching the sunlight in liquid sparks. He looked around the garden, satisfied. "You know," he said quietly, "your father used to stand here every morning. He believed the world could be healed if people learned to listen to the soil." Her breath caught. "You knew my father?" Marcus turned slowly to face her. For the first time, his calm expression shifted, just slightly. "I knew the man he was before business changed him." Evelyn's heart thudded once hard. She took a step forward. "Who are you really?" He smiled faintly. "Just a man trying to finish what he started." Before she could ask more, Clara called from the terrace. "Miss Carter, the investors from New York are online too." Evelyn turned her head for only a second, but when she looked back, Marcus had already walked away, his figure disappearing behind the rows of trees. That night, the mansion was quiet again. Evelyn sat in her office, staring at her father's old files. She opened one labeled green soil prototype, and her hands froze. The signature at the bottom wasn't her father's alone. It was co-signed by Marcus Reed. Her mind raced. Every piece began to fit. His confidence, his knowledge, his strange familiarity with her father's garden. She pushed the papers away, stood up, and stared out the window. Down below, the garden lights shimmered in gold. Marcus was still there, even at this hour, standing beside the fountain with his hands in his pockets, looking at the stars. Evelyn whispered to herself, "What are you hiding, Marcus Reed?" Outside, Marcus closed his eyes and let the night breeze wash over him. A faint memory surfaced, Richard Carter's voice, calm and regretful. "If anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll take care of her. She'll need someone who tells her the truth, not what she wants to hear." Marcus opened his eyes. "I made that promise, Richard," he said softly, "and I intend to keep it." The sound of the fountain filled the air again, like a heartbeat echoing through the night. The garden, once broken, had begun to heal, just as something unseen was beginning to awaken between them both. The next morning, Seattle's skyline shimmered beneath the pale blue of early light. Evelyn Carter's black limousine stopped in front of the Eco Bloom Tower, the headquarters of her empire. The air inside the building carried that familiar scent of polished glass and cold ambition. Every employee straightened when she walked through the automatic doors. Her white suit glowed under the lights, her presence sharper than the edges of her heels. But Evelyn's thoughts were tangled. She couldn't shake the image of Marcus working under the rain, or the memory of his words about her father. It had been years since anyone had spoken Richard Carter's name without reverence or fear. Something about Marcus's tone lingered like an echo she couldn't silence. She entered the elevator, pressed the top floor, and took a deep breath. Today was the quarterly review with the board of investors. Everything had to be perfect. She forced her mind back into business mode, where emotions had no place. The doors opened to the top floor. The boardroom gleamed with glass walls that overlooked the city. Men in dark suits sat around the table, murmuring quietly until she entered. "Good morning, everyone," she said with authority. "Let's begin." Charts appeared on the large screen. Profits, projections, and global expansions. Everything was moving upward. Evelyn's voice flowed smoothly through each report. No one questioned her numbers. No one ever did. Until a voice from the far end of the room spoke up. "Before we continue, I'd like to address something." Evelyn's head turned sharply. Her pulse froze. At the far side of the room, a man in a charcoal suit stood slowly. The air shifted. He wasn't one of her regular directors. His presence was too commanding, too calm. His eyes met hers. It was him, Marcus Reed. For a second, the world seemed to stop. Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. Marcus looked nothing like the gardener who had been planting orchids in her yard. His posture was straight, his voice steady, his suit perfectly tailored. "Who let you in here?" she demanded, her voice sharper than she intended. Marcus smiled faintly. "Technically, no one. I already had the right to be here." He placed a folder on the table, sliding it toward her. "I'm one of your largest shareholders. 40%, to be exact." The boardroom went silent. A few men exchanged confused glances. Evelyn's face drained of color. "This is a joke," she said flatly. "I don't joke about ownership," Marcus replied. "Your father and I co-founded the base project that built this company. The legal documents confirm it." He gestured toward the folder. Inside were copies of share certificates signed years ago, one by Richard Carter, the other by Marcus Reed. Evelyn's hand trembled as she flipped through the pages. The signatures were real. Her father's handwriting unmistakable. Marcus's tone was calm, almost too calm. "I never came to take over, Evelyn. I came to see what kind of leader you've become." The investors watched silently, sensing the storm building in the room. Evelyn forced herself to stand tall, though her voice quivered with suppressed rage. "You lied to me," she said. "You came into my home pretending to be a worker. I came into your world the same way your father entered mine," Marcus said quietly, hiding his power to see what people truly valued. The words cut deep. Evelyn's pride flared like a blade. "You think you can embarrass me? Walk into my company and play games?" Marcus's eyes softened. "I'm not playing, Evelyn. I'm reminding you that power means nothing if it blinds you." For the first time in her life, she couldn't speak. The board waited, the silence heavy with tension. Then Marcus gathered his papers and turned toward the exit. "I'll attend the next meeting," he said. "As a partner, not a guest." As he walked away, Evelyn's hand clenched around the edge of the table. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Clara whispered behind her, "Ma'am, everything he showed is real." Evelyn didn't respond. She stood there, staring at the door Marcus had just walked through. The man she had insulted, underestimated, and fired threats at was now her equal. No, her superior. Outside, Marcus stepped into the elevator. The doors closed slowly, his reflection overlapping with the city skyline. Under his breath, he said, "Now you know, Evelyn. The ground you stand on was never yours alone." Back inside the boardroom, Evelyn's voice finally broke the silence. "Cancel all my appointments," she said coldly. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Clara asked carefully. Evelyn stared out the window, her jaw tight. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I will be." The sound of rain began to patter again against the glass walls, soft, relentless, like the beginning of a reckoning. The rain outside Eco Bloom Tower turned the sky into a sheet of silver. Inside, the air was heavy with whispers. News of what had happened in the boardroom spread like wildfire. Employees stared discreetly as Evelyn Carter walked through the hallways with her usual grace, but her eyes no longer carried the same fire. Something inside her had cracked. She entered her private office and closed the glass door behind her. The silence pressed against her ears. For the first time in years, she felt small inside the company she built. She walked to the mirror that hung near the window. The reflection staring back at her looked flawless, sharp suit, perfect makeup, polished power. But beneath it, she saw the truth. The woman in the reflection was frightened. Her phone vibrated. Clara's name flashed on the screen. Evelyn hesitated before answering. "Yes, ma'am, the investors are demanding clarification. They want to know why Marcus Reed holds major shares in Eco Bloom." Evelyn's voice was calm but distant. "Tell them it's being reviewed. And Clara, don't let anyone disturb me." She ended the call and sat down, exhaling slowly. On her desk lay the folder Marcus had left behind. Every signature, every date, every number matched perfectly. There was no mistake. Her father had given away almost half the company before his death. She opened the last page, a letter addressed to her father from Marcus. The handwriting was steady, sincere. "Richard, I've decided to step away from Green Corp for now. The vision we had no longer belongs to us. I can't fight the system we created. But if your daughter ever takes your place, I'll return to see if the seed we planted still has life left in it." Evelyn's throat tightened. Her father had never mentioned any of this. Not a single word. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Carter, there's someone waiting in the lobby. He says it's urgent. I told you I don't want." "It's Mr. Reed." Her heart skipped. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she pressed the button again. "Send him up." When the elevator opened, Marcus stepped out wearing the same charcoal suit. His expression was calm, but his presence filled the room with quiet authority. Evelyn stood by her desk, her arms crossed, defensive, but not as certain as before. "You have nerve," she said. "Not nerve," Marcus replied softly. "Just unfinished business." He walked toward the window, glancing at the city below. "Your father once told me this view made him feel powerful. He thought owning the skyline meant he owned the world." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "He built everything from nothing. You wouldn't understand." Marcus turned to her, his gaze steady. "I was there when he built it." The silence that followed was sharp. Evelyn stepped back. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Marcus said quietly, "your father didn't build this alone. We started it together. Green Corp was our dream, mine and his. I created the formula that made EcoBloom possible. He turned it into a business. Then greed took everything away." Evelyn's face paled. "That's not true." Marcus took a folded piece of paper from his pocket and placed it on her desk. It was another letter, her father's handwriting again. She read it slowly, her hands trembling. "If you're reading this, it means Marcus came back. Trust him, Evelyn. He was the brother I betrayed. The company he helped create belongs to him as much as it does to you." Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. She closed the letter and looked away, her voice barely steady. "Why didn't you tell me who you were from the start?" Marcus's eyes softened. "Because power blinds faster than truth heals. I needed to see who you really were without the title." Her pride faltered. The walls she had built began to crumble piece by piece. "And what did you see?" she whispered. "I saw someone trying to be her father instead of herself." The words hit like thunder. Evelyn turned her back, staring out at the skyline. "So what now? You've proven your point. You own half my company. What do you want from me, Marcus?" He paused for a moment before answering. "I want to rebuild what was lost. Not the company, its soul. The reason it was created in the first place. To heal, not to dominate." She turned around, anger flaring again to mask the ache in her chest. "You talk like you're some kind of saint." Marcus smiled faintly. "No, just someone who remembers where the roots started." Then he walked to the door. "I'll see you at tomorrow's press conference." It's time people knew the real story behind EcoBloom. When the door closed, Evelyn's knees almost gave out. She fell into her chair, her hands clutching the letter her father had written. Outside, the rain continued to fall, streaking the glass like tears. For the first time in her life, Evelyn Carter didn't know if she was the hero of her story or the villain. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets of Seattle covered in a faint silver mist. The city stirred awake, unaware that inside the towering glass building of EcoBloom Inc., two lives were on the edge of a revelation that would change everything. Evelyn sat alone in her father's old office, an untouched corner of the tower she had never dared to enter before. Dust covered the mahogany desk, and the faint scent of his cologne still lingered in the air. She ran her hand across a framed photo of Richard Carter standing beside a younger man. Marcus Reed. Her fingers trembled. The truth she had refused to see now stood clear before her. They had been partners. They had dreamed together. Her father's success had been built not on a single man's vision, but two. A knock broke the silence. Clara entered quietly, holding a sealed brown envelope. "Ma'am, the lawyer just delivered this. It's marked as part of your father's will." Evelyn hesitated before taking it. Her eyes met Clara's. "Thank you. Please, close the door." The room fell silent again. She opened the envelope and pulled out several folded papers, each yellowed by time. The top letter bore her father's handwriting, firm, elegant, unmistakable. "My dearest Evelyn, if this reaches you, it means I am gone. I know the weight you carry, the world that expects you to lead with strength. But power without compassion will destroy what we built. There is a man who once stood beside me when I was lost, Marcus Reed. I wronged him in ways you will never understand. He believed in this company when no one else did. I betrayed that trust. One day he may come back, not for revenge, but for truth. When he does, listen to him. You will see the man your father once failed to be." Evelyn's vision blurred. The paper shook in her hands. Tears spilled silently down her cheeks as the words sank deep into her heart. Her entire life, she had fought to prove herself worthy of her father's legacy. Now she realized she had been chasing the shadow of a man who had lived with guilt. Meanwhile, across town, Marcus sat in a small cafe overlooking the harbor. He stirred his coffee absently, staring at the skyline he once dreamed of conquering. A woman approached his table, It was Linda Monroe, the lawyer who had handled Richard Carter's estate. "You've read the letter?" she asked softly. Marcus nodded. "I have. It doesn't erase what he did, but it explains it." Linda sighed. "He always spoke highly of you, Marcus. Said you were the heart of everything Eco Bloom stood for." Marcus gave a quiet, sad smile. He was a good man who lost his way. "I just hope his daughter doesn't do the same." He stood, gazing out the window at the towering Eco Bloom logo gleaming above the skyline. "It's time to finish what we started." At noon, the press gathered in the Eco Bloom lobby. Reporters crowded the space, cameras flashing as rumors swirled of a major company announcement. Evelyn stood behind the stage curtain, her hands clenched tightly together. Her assistant whispered, "Ma'am, are you sure about this?" Evelyn took a slow breath. For once, yes. She walked out onto the stage, facing the sea of flashing lights. Her voice, usually sharp and commanding, was softer now, controlled, but heavy with emotion. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Today, I want to speak not as a CEO, but as a daughter." The crowd fell silent. My father, Richard Carter, was known as a visionary, the man who brought Eco Bloom to life. But there is a truth that must finally be told. He didn't do it alone. She paused, her gaze sweeping the audience until it stopped at Marcus, who stood quietly near the back, arms crossed. The man who shared his dream, his knowledge, and his faith was standing beside him all along. "His name is Marcus Reed." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Evelyn's voice didn't waver. "He is the rightful co-founder of Eco Bloom. And from this day forward, his name will stand beside my father's on every project we build." Marcus's expression remained calm, but his eyes softened. For the first time, Evelyn saw gratitude in them. Not pride, not triumph, but peace. When the conference ended, the crowd erupted in questions. Reporters swarmed Marcus, but he gently walked through them toward Evelyn. They met in the hallway behind the stage. "You didn't have to do that," Marcus said quietly. "Yes, I did," Evelyn replied. "Because the truth deserves light." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. The steel in her eyes was still there, but something new had replaced the coldness, humility. "You've changed," he said finally. Evelyn gave a small smile. "Maybe I'm just starting to see the garden you were talking about." Marcus chuckled softly, shaking his head. "The garden always grows, Evelyn. It just needs someone willing to care for it." They stood in silence, the noise of reporters fading behind them. The air between them was heavy, not with rivalry, but understanding. Outside, the rain began again, soft and warm, falling over Seattle like a benediction. The city glowed beneath it, and for the first time, Evelyn felt as if the world was no longer hers to control, but hers to nurture. The rain outside fell in gentle waves, washing the city streets clean. By evening, Seattle glowed under golden streetlights, the reflection of the Eco Bloom Tower rippling across puddles like a symbol reborn. Inside that tower, something deeper than business was taking root. Evelyn Carter stood by the window of her office, staring at the city below. Her reflection no longer looked like the cold, untouchable CO she once was. Her hair hung loose, her eyes tired, but alive. For the first time in years, she felt real. A knock came at the door. She turned to see Marcus standing there, holding 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you could use one," he said. She smiled faintly. "You still remember how I like it? Black. No sugar." Evelyn chuckled softly. "Some things don't change." He placed the cup on her desk and sat across from her. The silence between them was comfortable now. No walls, no power games, just 2 people breathing in the same quiet truth. After a moment, Evelyn spoke. "You were right, Marcus. I was trying to be him. Every decision I made, every deal I signed, I thought I was honoring my father. But I was only chasing his shadow." Marcus leaned back, his gaze thoughtful. "Sometimes we inherit dreams that aren't ours. The trick is learning which parts to keep and which to let go." Evelyn looked down at her hands. "He was a great man, but also a flawed one. And I never gave myself permission to be either." Marcus smiled gently. "You don't have to be flawless, Evelyn. You just have to be human." She lifted her eyes to meet his. For once, there was no defiance there, no guarded pride, just quiet sincerity. "I'm sorry, Marcus, for the way I treated you, for the things I said." He shook his head. "I've already forgiven you, long before you ever knew who I was." Her throat tightened. She wanted to speak, but emotion silenced her. Marcus continued softly. Your father once said he hoped you'd learn what real strength looks like. I think you finally have. They sat there for a while, the city lights shimmering between them. Then Evelyn stood and walked to the large whiteboard on the wall. On it, dozens of future EcoBloom projects were listed, most of them focused on profit, expansion, and domination. One by one, she began erasing them. Marcus watched silently. What are you doing? Starting over, she said. This company was built on power and competition. I want to rebuild it on compassion and growth. She picked up a marker and wrote 3 new words at the top of the board. Rebuild, restore, renew. When she turned back to Marcus, her eyes were steady again, but this time, not with pride. With purpose. I want your help. Not as an investor. Not even as a co-founder. As a partner. For a moment, Marcus said nothing. The offer hung in the air like a promise. Then he smiled. A real smile. One Evelyn had never seen before. Then let's build something your father would have been proud of, and something the world actually needs. Over the next few weeks, everything changed. EcoBloom transformed from a symbol of luxury to a force of restoration. They launched the Seattle Green Horizon Project, an initiative to turn abandoned urban spaces into public gardens powered by sustainable energy. People across the city joined the effort. Volunteers, students, and families came together to plant trees and flowers across empty lots. News outlets called it the new heart of Seattle. Evelyn and Marcus stood side by side at the opening ceremony of the first completed garden. The mayor gave a speech, photographers snapped pictures, but Evelyn barely noticed. Her gaze was on the rows of children planting saplings, their laughter filling the air. This, she whispered, this is what it should have always been about. Marcus nodded. Not money, not fame, just giving life back where it was lost. As the ceremony ended, Evelyn turned to him. I used to think strength meant standing above everyone else. Now I know it's standing with them. He smiled. Welcome to the garden, Evelyn. The crowd began to leave, and the sky above them glowed orange with sunset. For a long moment, they stood in silence, watching the last light fade behind the skyline they had both fought for, and finally learned to share. The breeze carried the scent of blooming roses, the same kind that once died in her yard. Evelyn closed her eyes, letting the sound of laughter and wind wash over her. For the first time in her life, she felt at peace. Spring returned to Seattle with quiet grace. The once gray city now bloomed with life. Where there had been parking lots and concrete fields, there were now stretches of green, small parks, solar gardens, and glass domes filled with native plants. The project Seattle Green Horizon had spread faster than anyone imagined. News channels called it a revolution of compassion. People said that Evelyn Carter, the once feared CEO, had turned into a symbol of hope. But for Evelyn, none of that mattered. What mattered was the feeling she got each morning when she walked through the new gardens with Marcus at her side. The feeling of air that smelled like rain and second chances. It was early morning when Evelyn arrived at the city's largest new garden, the Carter Reed Conservatory. The name had been Marcus's idea, though she had protested at first. Now, as she saw it carved in bronze beneath the archway, she felt something rare, a sense of belonging. Volunteers were already at work. Families planted trees. Children played by the solar fountains. A group of elderly men and women tended flower beds with patient smiles. Evelyn crouched beside a little girl who was trying to dig a hole with a plastic shovel. Need a hand? Evelyn asked. The girl giggled and nodded. Together, they dug through the soft soil, dropping in a small seedling. When they finished, the girl looked up and said, "When will it grow?" Evelyn smiled. "When you take care of it. Just like people." From a few steps away, Marcus watched the scene unfold. There was a gentleness in Evelyn now that he hadn't seen before, something her father would have recognized. She moved through the garden like sunlight breaking through clouds, her voice soft, her laughter real. When she joined Marcus again, she brushed dirt from her hands. "You were right," she said. "The best things in life grow slow." Marcus chuckled. "And the most stubborn people take even longer." Evelyn laughed, shaking her head. "I'll take that as a compliment." They walked together down the path, passing a pond lined with newly planted reeds. The sound of running water filled the air like music. Marcus paused, his gaze thoughtful. "You know," he said, "your father would have loved this." Evelyn looked toward the fountain, her eyes misting. I hope so. I used to think I had to prove myself to him. Now I just want to live the way he should have. Marcus nodded slowly. You already are. They continued walking until they reached the center of the garden, where a marble bench overlooked the skyline. There, Evelyn stopped and turned to face him. This city was once built on ambition, she said. Now, maybe it can be built on kindness. Marcus looked out over the horizon. You changed more than a city, Evelyn. You changed yourself. She smiled softly. Maybe you helped me do that. The wind carried a quiet stillness between them, something unspoken but understood. The noise of the city faded into the distance, replaced by the steady hum of nature reclaiming its place. That evening, as the sun began to sink, they stood side by side beneath the golden light. The garden glowed with color: roses, orchids, tulips, and vines bursting with life. The same blue roses that once symbolized Evelyn's pride now represented her redemption. Children ran past, laughing. Volunteers finished their work for the day. And at the edge of the path, a small plaque gleamed in the fading sunlight. Evelyn knelt to read it aloud. For those who learned that the roots of greatness are found in humility. Marcus looked down at her, his expression warm. You wrote that? She smiled. No, you did. He laughed softly. Then I guess it finally means something. The sound of laughter mixed with the whisper of the wind, and the garden seemed to breathe with them, as if it understood what had been healed. As the sky turned to twilight, Evelyn turned toward Marcus. Do you ever think about the past? Every day, he said quietly, but not with anger anymore. She nodded, her voice calm. Me neither. They stood in silence, watching as the last light of the day touched the roses, painting them in shades of gold and blue. It was more than a garden now. It was a promise, a living symbol that from ruin could rise beauty, and from pride could grow peace. And for the first time, Evelyn Carter smiled not as a CEO, but as a woman who had finally learned how to let things bloom. A soft wind swept across the city, carrying with it the scent of wet soil and blooming flowers. The sun dipped low behind the skyline, painting Seattle in hues of gold and rose. Inside the Carter Reed Conservatory, the lights glowed like fireflies among the trees. It was the final night of the Green Horizon celebration, a ceremony to honor everyone who had turned the dream of renewal into reality. Guests mingled under the glass dome, music played softly, and laughter filled the air. Evelyn stood near the fountain in a simple ivory dress, a far cry from the tailored power suits she once wore. Her hair fell loose around her shoulders, her smile warm and unguarded. People approached her with gratitude and admiration, but her eyes searched for only one person. Then she saw him. Marcus stood near the entrance, talking to a group of volunteers. He wore a dark suit, his expression calm but radiant in the soft light. When his eyes met hers across the room, time seemed to still. Evelyn excused herself and walked toward him. Each step felt like a bridge closing between the woman she had been and the one she had become. You clean up well, she said with a smile. Marcus chuckled. I was about to say the same thing. You look peaceful. She laughed quietly. That's a first. They stood together near the fountain, the water reflecting the stars through the glass ceiling. For a while, neither spoke. The air was thick with unspoken gratitude, with memories that didn't need words. Evelyn finally broke the silence. Do you ever think about how strange this is? You started as my gardener. Marcus smiled. And you started as my lesson. She tilted her head. Lesson? He nodded. You taught me that sometimes people have to lose everything before they can truly see. Evelyn's gaze softened. And you taught me that the strongest roots grow in silence. Marcus looked at her then, really looked, at the woman who had once been cold and proud, now standing before him with light in her eyes. Your father would be proud, he said quietly. Evelyn smiled. No, he'd be proud of us. The orchestra began to play a slow, gentle tune. Couples drifted to the center of the room to dance. Marcus extended his hand. May I? Evelyn hesitated, her heart fluttering in a way she hadn't felt in years. Then she placed her hand in his. You may? As the music faded and the lights dimmed, Evelyn whispered the words she had never said before. Thank you for coming back, Marcus. He looked into her eyes and replied, I never really left. And under the glow of the conservatory, surrounded by life they had rebuilt together, they kissed, gently, truthfully, like the final piece of a promise finally kept. Outside, Seattle slept under the rain, and the garden lived on, growing, healing, and loving in silence. The end.